What is up, sports bettors? Matt Modi here with OddsJam, coming to you with some NFL player props to lock in for week 1. Books are starting to post their odds for player props. Very, very exciting stuff, as for those of you who have followed me along this YouTube channel know that I love me some player prop bets. I had a ton of success with them last year using OddsJam for these player props. Let's hope I can continue the same luck. So as I mentioned, a bunch of books have been posting their odds for player props. So I found two that I really liked, of course, using OddsJam to find them. The OddsJam positive expected value page, finding an edge on these player props. So I'm going to go ahead and lock them in. Both bets here, both just smaller half unit plays, both have been locked in. As you can see here, bets have been placed. So let's talk about them. Of course, like I mentioned, I found them using OddsJam. What I did to find these bets to start off was I filtered the league specifically for NFL, market specifically for player props, max odds plus 200, market width I kept 35 and below. So for those of you at home who are looking to specifically bet player props, those are the filters that I would recommend using. If you did want to filter it specifically, of course, there are a ton of plays here, which makes it a little bit difficult. So I did the research and I found the two that I liked, and it ended up being these top two here. Generally for percent, I mean, all plays that are going to be on the OddsJam page are going to be, they're going to be plus EV, right? They're going to be mathematically profitable. But for player props specifically, I like to stick to plays that have an EV percent of a little bit higher than normal. Just because player props have higher variance, you need to do a little bit more research and be a little bit safer with your bets. So this first one, Justin Fields under 35.5 rushing yards. I really like this one. So the no vig odds have this priced at plus 102, only 30 cents in market width, so well within range there. Like I mentioned, I have it 35 and below. All in all, equates to an EV percent of this one of about 4.91%. So the gap between the no vig odds here and the Caesars line at plus 112 equates to just under 5% profit margin. And this one, I love this one just because look where every other book is pricing it at. We locked it in at plus 112 on Caesars, right? Justin Fields under 35.5, plus 112 on Caesars. Look at where every other book is pricing it at. The OddsJam line, the sharpest line in the world. DraftKings, which actually does a really good job at placing player props, closer to the OddsJam line, minus 115. BetMGM has this at minus 110. And then Caesars is the only book that has this for plus money. Every other book is giving you minus 110, minus 115, minus 113. Insane value getting this at plus 112 on Caesars. So this was the first one I locked in. I also love it for football reasons. For those of you who have caught along this YouTube channel know that I love doing a little bit of additional handicapping, just looking at plays and seeing how they are. And let's look at this Bears offensive line. 31st. Which also means second worst in the NFL. Now, I know there's common thought that, oh, poor offensive line means the running back is going to rush more. That's actually not the case. A poor offensive line, if you remember for all those Russell Wilson years, yes, they're running for their lives, but pressure doesn't always equate to rushing yards. So it's actually a bit of a misnomer. And I think that Justin Fields is going to be running for his life. And I think that he's going to have no time to throw. What I think is more likely is that this is more reminiscent to Justin Fields' first ever NFL start. Now, the doofus of Matt Nagy isn't coaching the Bears anymore, so he's not going to have these 7-step drops where he's just sitting him in the pocket. He's hopefully the Bears coaching staff is going to roll him out a little bit, which makes me believe that the 49ers defense, smart defense coached by DeMeco Ryans, is going to play a little bit of off coverage, basically daring him to beat them with his arm because they know they can get pressure. So Justin Fields going under 35.5 rushing yards, I think is really good. So I locked this one in, as you can see, under 35.5 plus 112, positive expected value play pulled from OddsJam. The next one, plus 106 on Caesars. Same logic here. This one has a 4% positive EV, so not quite as high as the other one, as this Justin Fields one, but still above 4%, which is good. Another one that only has 30 cents in market width, the no vig odds, priced this one again at minus 102. And then this one, so it's positive EV. It's an outlier when you compare it across all the sports books. And I think Antonio Gibson, he's pretty much being left for dead as someone who had a really good first 2 years of his career. It's kind of being left for dead in his third year. There's been some weirdness out of Washington, but what we do know is that the running back who was supposed to take his starting spot, Brian Robinson, had a horrific accident happen to him. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, was shot as he got mugged. Horrible, horrible incident. What it does mean is that Antonio Gibson vaults right back into the starting rushing role for Washington. And at quarterback, the Commanders have Carson Wentz, who the last time we saw him on a football field was against this Jaguars team in a game in which Carson Wentz soiled himself on the football field. So logic being the Manders are going to rely heavily on the running game to start Carson Wentz's first career start with the Commanders, which means that they're going to end up relying a lot on Antonio Gibson running the ball. Their passing down back is J.D. McKissick, so he'll probably get all the passing work, but I think that Gibson is going to get all of the rushing work. So getting a positive EV play on Gibson to go over 57.5 rushing yards, I really like. So let me add both of these to my bet tracker. I put $50 on Antonio Gibson's rushing yards over on his rushing yards over, and then I put $50 on Justin Fields' rushing yards under. So now let me just add this one to my OddsJam bet tracker as well. Added to my bet tracker, and we're good to go. So my two favorite player props to start off: Antonio Gibson over 57.5 rushing yards, Justin Fields under 35.5 rushing yards, and that's it. So if you guys are tailing at home, let me know. We'd love to hear it. Comment on the video. Other than that, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. All that stuff helps me out a ton, and that's it. So appreciate you guys watching, and have a good one.